It is a very nice hot day here in the foothills of the Sierras, and so it's kind of nice. We've had a lot of cool weather, so this is a nice break, but hopefully it won't get too hot as the day progresses. Good morning, Diana. Welcome, welcome. And Kristen's here with us. We've got a lot of good things to share with you today, and want to talk about a little bit about a project coming up in a few minutes. I'll wait till more people come on, and then also what we're going to do today and how that happened and came about to be. So, rainy in Florida. Well, enjoy the rain. I really like it. We don't get a ton of that here. So, and Robin and Iola, New Jersey, coming from far and wide. I love it. All right. Today we're going to be doing diamonds. Since I received the 60-degree angle ruler from our Quilter Select, the 60-degree equilateral triangle ruler, I have been rather fascinated and curious about 60-degree angles. I like pyramid quilts, especially scrappy ones. I've been fascinated with it. I've got a lot of triangles cut for that type of quilt. And then I decided I wanted to play a little bit with this. And through, I don't know, last couple of years, I have run across, using diamonds for 4 patches, and also combining 4 patches, 9 patches in diamonds and different things. So today, I thought that I would like to finally maybe get started on that. And so I played around most of the week, last week and this week, seeing what I could come up with. And so from my own stash, without tearing my, whole quilt room and the cabinets where I keep all the fabric, I decided that today that I would go with the leftover cave fabric that I had in my stash and see what I could put with it and see if I could make this work. So, and I chose cave because let me share the picture of the small little block that I came up with. Um, this is, 2 8-inch diamonds and 2 8-inch 4 patches. And so I went, and as I was looking through my cave, I really like the rich jewel tone fabrics that he has, and they're large print. So each place that I cut on the fabric, I am really going to get something quite different. The piece on the right, probably if I had looked at it a little more carefully and thought about it a little more, I would have turned the fabric and had the flower, instead of sideways, I would have had it going straight up and down. But for the purpose of just sharing with you, for me, this is kind of one block. And I looked quite a bit for fabric that I wanted to put with it, and I decided to go solids. So I had some leftover solids from the kit that we had done for the Hawaiian quilting and stuff, and they had some really of those dark, rich jewel tones in it. So I pulled those back again and decided to, just go with what I had. I don't have a lot. Let me pull this to the side a little bit. So I don't have, a ton of the rich jewel tone cave fabrics in my stash that were big enough for me to get what I needed out of them. So I just have a few, and as I was looking for the value change and stuff, It's not as good as I would like it, especially on the top 4 patch, but I need to go shopping. And that's such a hard thing to do, is to go shopping for fabric. To continue with this, I have some, but not a lot of what I would like to put in this. So as I was looking, I want to go back and share with you some things that I did. Here is kind of pull it to the side, maybe this side. Um, I wanted to pull out and get pretty much a medium dark to dark fabrics. And so of the cape that I had, I went with kind of the turquoise and the reddish because I wanted to combine both dark and cool, or excuse me, warm and cool. And so these seem to fit into a palette for me as I took a picture, went on my camera, and then took it down to mono or black and white, and could play with it a little bit and get fabrics that fit into that darker jewel tone. And just for reference, first of all, I am going to share with you, let me get you down to the table. These are the, colors and fabrics that I had, that as I put my fabrics up against them, that they worked really well for in terms of solids. But certainly this doesn't have to be solids. I also think Kafe's solids, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but they have that, shimmer and kind of a shine to them. And then these were the fabrics that I had in my stash that I'm starting with in terms of fabrics with Kafe. And so this is what you saw in the black and white. They all read pretty much the same value. And so my lighter values need to fit in with, the light sections that are coming into this fabric. And then I chose the solids to help me with that. So anyway, let me go back and bring up the picture again for those who just came in. Today, I wanted to play with my 60-degree Quilter Select ruler and come up with a quilt. And this is one that I've been wanting to do for a while. So here is the block, and now we're going to go through and figure out how this is created and how easy this ruler makes this quilt come together. So let me talk a little bit more in terms of fabric. This one was as I played with the fabrics on my table. At the top there, I have chosen, some Kafe fabrics, and I wanted to get them medium light to light, and so that there was contrast between my blocks. Now, if you will indulge me for a minute, I'm going to move this over. And I believe this is the one. Yes. You can see that this is the black and white version of that, of the top there. And a couple of things that I want to throw out to you is that the blue dotted fabric, the second one down from the top, and the large floral at the bottom, they're a little bit too dark, and there's not enough contrast, and you can see it a little bit because the other fabrics are laying close by. So I probably will keep the dotted one because it will have contrast simply because of the polka dots, and I can get away with that one. But that bottom one is going to blend in, I think, a little bit too much, so I may not completely use it. I I may try it today. I don't know. So, anyway, that is what I was looking for as I was tackling this block. But all large florals and then smaller florals for your 4 patches would work great. And anything that sort of reads a solid that you can get, or use all polka dots for the where I used my solids, or another fabric that is distinctive, and you would, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. And as you're playing with it on your design wall, I think it could be really quite something. So just playing, I decided to I just went with this size. I think, depending on where I'm at, I may keep it at this size, but my large diamond is, I cut 8.5 inch strips. And so for a whole quilt, I would want more than one diamond from the fabric. All right. So from those fabrics, for the large diamonds and the large florals, I cut 8.5 inch strips. And for the small diamonds from the solids, I cut a 4.5 inch strips. And from the light, medium light to light fabrics, I also cut 4.5 inch strips. And then the next thing that you will need to do with those is you are going to, excuse me for a second, let me get this so you can actually read it. You're going to fold those in half lengthwise to cut your diamonds, and I'm going to share that and show you that in just a minute. I wanted to get through some of this. So 8.5 inch strips, 4.5 inch strips for the size that I was playing with. But you seriously can make these diamonds any size that you want to with this ruler up to 16 inches. So that's a very large diamond. And the quilt would certainly go together quickly, and you certainly wouldn't need as many fabrics or as much time in that. But before I move on, I want to go and just see what is happening over here. If there's any questions or thoughts, good morning, everyone from all over the place. It's good. And it's always really good to see the familiar faces. I feel like you're friends, even though I don't know you at all. But I see you every week and love it. All right. Sue Cooper asked if he creates any solid color fat quarters for blending. Yes, maybe Kristen could help me here with that. There's a name for the fabrics, but they are solids. And he does have a solid. Lynn, I get you about being intimidated to cut into Kaif's fabrics, but hey, once you do it, it's fun. The final block size, I didn't measure it. I would, no. So they're 8, I would say 16 because there's 2 on top of each other, 16 by maybe 8 inches wide. So that's probably what it is. Okay, let me drop you down to my table and we'll get started. So with the ruler, you can get 2 blocks out of this. And what was really fun is that once I started cutting these, I recognized that I could get 2 quilts from one quilt. And I'm going to share with you how I'm going to do that. So to determine the size of your finished diamond, you're gonna decide how tall you want it, the height of your finished diamond unit. So as I said, my diamond units are 8 inches. All right. So if they're 8 inches, you need to cut 8.5 inch strips. All right. And the half is the you know, the seam allowance in there. And then the small ones, so that the four patch ends up to being 8 inches as well when it's sewn together in a finished four patch. You're going to cut those 4.5 inches strips to get those diamonds out of it. Now, when I was playing around, and there was a couple of fabrics that I only had a little bit and I could only get one diamond out of. Well, I'm going to get a diamond out of that. So I decided that, all right, I can cut a rectangle, fold it in half, and get a diamond out of that. So for the 8-inch diamond, I cut a rectangle that is 6 by 9. And out of the center of that, I was able to cut, you know, my diamond out of it. And then I had these, you know, 2 angles left over. Now, I measured through the several pieces that I cut, and if I were to be a little bit more careful as I cut these, I could trim the side, and I could get a probably 4-inch half rectangle or half rectangle triangle out of the block. And then, as you know, if you put the other, you know, another side here, you've got that half square or half rectangle diamond shape. And you put 2 colors on the side and 2 down here, you get a diamond again. And you would, you know, have a background fabric or a variety of background fabrics, and you could end up getting 2 quilts out of that. So that's just an add-on little tip. But I have a piece of fabric that I cut a rectangle out of for the purposes of demonstrating today for the smaller diamonds, because I want to show you how to sew those together. So here is a light fabric, or a lighter fabric, and I cut this. I think this one is 5 by 3.5, I believe. And so when you get the fabric, you know, strips cut, you're going to fold them in half, and you're going to keep the folded side down. And when you put that, and I folded it incorrectly, you fold it lengthwise, not the other way. I was wondering why that didn't seem to. And so when you put that up, and I must have cut that one incorrectly. So we'll go this way. Maybe I did fold it correctly. All right. So I can put that in the center, and with that little bit of extra, and if I wanted to really, you know, do that second quilt, I could maybe cut it 5 by 4 or 6 by 4, and then I would make sure that I could trim and cut that. So I am going to cut this one. It's always a little harder when I'm sitting down. So I do, and you would have to, you know, be very careful in your cutting. Let me stand up here so I can get a little bit more leverage. And maybe not having a dull rotary cutter could help too. That's something that, you know, I really, you know, tell my students, and I don't always listen myself, is that when you are starting a new project, to put in a new blade and to put a new needle on your machine. And now I have my diamond shape on that one. So let's see what I wasn't looking at. right here. I just wasn't looking at it correctly. So I'm going to stand for this one again. And so that I have, and I always start in the fabric, come back and go forward. That way the bottom of my fabric is not pulled up. Boy, this is really dull. And that is not really a good thing. I haven't used that one in a while. But you guys are used to my mistakes here. So I've got 1, 2, and then these were the other 2 that I cut beforehand. So those were going to be my 2 pieces. And then I had cut this one as my 8-inch tall one. What is really wonderful about this is that as I put these together into, I think I want to, I don't know that that actually made a difference, but, and then this one would be sewn here. And I hope that you know that you would sew these in rows diagonally when you get them all laid out for a quilt, and around the edges you would cut, you know, around the side, you know, half of them would be cut straight off. So what is wonderful about this ruler and the way these are cut is that when you fold these over and you line them up, they exactly fit together. And so you're sewing down the side, and there is no keeping it a 1/4 inch on this side, a 1/4 inch on that side. They fit so perfectly in there. And when you sew the 4-patch together, that's when, for me, the excitement happens with this ruler. So I'm using, you know, keeping that 1/4 inch. Here is, on this particular quilt, that 1/4 inch is going to be really important. And so I am using both my foot and my 1/4 inch line on my Sew Steady mat. And I'm going to chain stitch those 2. So again, I'm lining these 2 up. And as I put them under my machine, and the key here is, you know, hold your fabric gently, treat it with kid gloves, which means don't stretch your fabric. If you aren't cutting correctly, do that. Go back and check your cutting, because it's going to make a huge difference when you get to the next part. So when they come out, you should have, you know, your seams very straight on each side. And I'm going to press towards the solid color for the sake of the 9-patch, and I'm very gently just brushing up against that seam line, holding my iron flat and again setting seams, pressing up against that seam line without pushing on it, just making sure that I don't have any wrinkles, holding my iron in place. And then my 4-patch comes in like that. Now, when you line this side up, no stretching, and line this side up, no stretching, What is wonderful about this ruler and the cutting of that is, one, the ruler doesn't move. And, this was always hard to get a fourth of an inch, because at the quarter inch is where these seam lines need to hit. All right. And it was kind of miraculous for me, and I hope that it works today, is that I don't have to even necessarily pin, because I've just pressed these and now I'm going to sew them together. They're, the heat of the iron holds them together a little bit. I am not really messing with my fabric too much. And when I get it at the quarter inch, it hits that, point on the side. Now let's all hold our cross our fingers and make sure that everything is going to line up exactly the way it's supposed to. Just like it did when I was practicing and playing around this week. All right. All right, the moment of truth. Nope, I got off just a hair's breadth, but not enough that I probably would re-sew it. But, isn't that Murphy's Law? That when you are doing this on camera, and I can see why it happened, that little bit. And I would like to show that to you so that you don't make the same mistakes. I don't know if you can see the seam line on the lighter part, but as I was sewing here, the fabric pulled just a little bit, and so my seam line comes in slightly and then goes across. So if I had kept it and held that properly, and that's probably a good reason why I should have used a pin. So what I'm going to try to do to see if it makes a difference is that I am going to put this back under and sew and sew on that seam line again right before it moved slightly on me. And see if I can do that and correct that minor boo-boo without having to, and I got pretty close on that. So that did kind of work. Sewing over it. Again, just lightly on that, letting your and then your 4 patches. And again, and you could open up the seams and press them if you desire. But I just want you to see that, it did work as I was sewing those 4 patches. But this is what I loved about the fact of the 4 patch and this particular ruler. So my suggestion, as you saw that moved a little bit, and I was able to correct it by sewing actually the seam line, I don't know if you can see that, but it's right up against it, next to it, and that you drop a pin at that point. And you can also certainly check to make sure, and you can see that my seam lines were, well, hopefully you can see, we're just slightly off. And if you straighten that up before you put your pin in, you're going to get this, it's going to come out exactly right. And that's why I love that. And I say it's going to come out exactly right, and yet I messed it up on camera, which is, that's my forte, as you guys know. Let me go and check and see if we have Um, any questions? I love these colors too, you guys. And Cave Shot Cottons. Yes, I am, Marilyn, and thank you for saying that because it's been driving me crazy. I don't want it perfect. I want it real. Sherry, I think I like you very much. Is there a pattern? I have no idea. Um, I'm sure there is because I didn't invent this. I saw it, and I probably saw it on Pinterest. And to me, Patchery Menagerie, I think, might have a pattern that you could purchase. Um, Two color quilt too, absolutely, absolutely. Kona solids would work great. Um, yes, I am sewing with Kona cottons right now. This finished blocks, again, I am going to guess because these are, 8 inches, and you're actually going to be sewing them in rows like this. Let me see if I can lay this out. And so I used that as a block so you could see how it was going to look. But you would actually sew this, in strips, diagonal strips like this across. And then, as you get to the corners, um, you would, you're going to be, uh, trimming that, I would think, straight, straight across. And so you're going to be missing, half of along the sides and the top because this gets sewn in diagonal lines. And so it's basically strip piecing when you're done. As at least that's the way I would sew it together from what I know about that. Anytime that you have a diamond shape, you always sew it on the diagonal. And so there would be, the camera view is a little bit limited, but you would sew it that way. All right. And so this block right here isn't necessarily a block that you would put together. You're sewing these as individual blocks and you're cutting these as individual blocks. And then you would design it on your design wall and sew them in strips um, like this. And then when it's done, you have, sections that look like that. And I probably shouldn't have called it a block. It was more an example for you to see what this would all look like. And half square triangles on sides. Yes, Sue, thank you. I'm glad that you're here helping me teach today because I'm fumbling with that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the strips that you are cutting. If you're cutting strips and you're using your ruler and you start, say with this one, because it's a 10-inch block, you're going to get 5-inch or 4.5-inch finish sized diamonds. So if this was a strip of fabric, you're going to cut here. You cannot turn your ruler and cut the next one because it won't be a diamond. It's going to be a triangle, a 60-degree triangle. So you move from this, cut it, and then you're going to move again to and you will have all of these triangles left. Again, that would make a great pyramid quilt. You have all this excess, and if you go individual, you would have and cut rectangles out of your fabric. You could make a half rectangle quilt. So whichever way that you choose, you're going to get a second quilt out of this. And so you would have two quilts for the price of one, maybe. But you can't turn this because the bottom always needs to be on the fold so that when you open it, you have a diamond shape. Does that make sense for everybody? I hope so. Now I have something else to share with you. And this is going to be happening on the quilt show coming up this summer. And I saw this. I went to bring these two in. This, let me make it a little bit smaller so I can get the second one up there as well. As you can probably tell, these are Mariner compasses, and this quilt is called Summer Bloom, and you're going to be able to make it into either it's going to be a 3-month summer project is what it is going to be, and the project will be to make a quilt or Christmas tree skirt out of this. And I think the bottom one on the green shows how it would look as a Christmas tree skirt. And this is called a strip pieced mariner's compass, and it's a special technique that was developed by the designer Robin Long. And Robin is going to be the one teaching the class, and it will last for about 3 months, and it's going to be on the quilt show. There is not a start date at this point, but keep watching for it. If this gets you excited about making a mariner's compass, I'm guessing that strip piecing is going to make this much easier and quicker to put together. So this is something that will be coming up future-wise, designed and taught by Robin Long. So that's something for you to look forward to. And a pyramid quilt. A pyramid quilt is simply sewing triangles together in rows. And with this ruler, it makes that incredibly easy, again, because of the flat point that you're cutting off. You can fit those, quilts, those, I can't talk today, those triangles together into rows, and it goes together very quickly and keeps it very straight, both on this quilt and if you choose to do a pyramid quilt. And it's called a pyramid quilt simply because you're sewing triangles together. And so, Sue, I would look it up on, go to Pinterest and put in pyramid quilts, and you'll see hundreds of them. And the key to this with this ruler and having the blunt ends and everything coming together so well and so easily in the center with very little effort that always has to be made, and it was always fiddly for me, is the fact that you can't pull your fabric. Treat it gently. Lay it together. Don't try to pull it into place or whatever. Just gently move it into place. What happened to Bojagi? Nothing. It's that the fabric has been slow in getting to the store. And so as soon as they get it and get it kitted, then I will do the Korean Bojagi. And so that's still coming. And I'm looking forward to that too. And what is the ruler used, Donna? It is, let me drop you down to the table again. And this is a wonderful little thing from Quilter Select too, because it really makes cutting that easy and moving the ruler. So I highly recommend getting this knob for the ruler. It's Quilter Select 60-degree equilateral triangle ruler. So it's a 60-degree ruler that you can cut half rectangle blocks from, or the diamond shapes, and also triangles. Now, if you're just, going to be cutting triangles, of course, you would have your strip of fabric and it would not be folded, and you could certainly then do this with it. But for the diamond shapes and for what the purpose that we're doing it, it's a folded piece of fabric, and so you can only go this way, and these would be remaining diamonds that you would have out of this. And I'm saying that and this holds wonderfully, and it just makes that movement and that cutting so much easier on that. All right, let me see if there's anything. All right, so with that, I hope you enjoy playing around. If this quilt interests or excites you, if not, you have a new skill or a technique in your quilting, bag, and that's awesome to know how this ruler works. I highly recommend it. I had a 60-degree ruler that I sometimes struggled with to get the cutting right because it was move on me, especially as I was cutting larger pieces, that kind of thing. These rulers, whatever that magic is on the back of them, really holds them in place, and I get my accuracy so much better with that. And so and if you line them up carefully and sew, you pretty much come right out where you're supposed to in the center of those four patches. So I hope that you've enjoyed this, and that you'll at least give it a try, to see how the ruler works now that you've seen it again, and how easy that diamond four patches can be made when you have the right tools. As my father always said as a carpenter, tools make a difference, and the quality. And so anyway, enjoy your week. We'll be back next week, I think. Well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week, but I'll let you know. They'll let you know on the Quilt Show. So have a wonderful, wonderful um, the size. Before I go, I just saw Mar just popped up. What is the size of the rectangle you fold in half? For the 8.5 uh, uh, diamond shape, I cut 6 by 9 inch rectangle, and for the smaller one, I cut a 5 by 3.5 rectangle that I folded in half lengthwise. So that was the dimensions again for that. So have a great week, and I will see you next Saturday.